Watching the financial news these days is like looking at a funhouse mirror. The picture of the economy is distorted constantly. While dire warnings about the economy could lead you to think the world is coming unhinged, the economy is actually doing just fine based on objective economic measures. The final revision of GDP growth for the second quarter of 2016 was initially estimated at 1.1%, but the final figure came in at 1.4%. That's good news, and upward revisions are always good news. But what made it even sweeter were the characteristics of the growth. Growth of the U.S. economy comes from four sources, but not in equal measure. Consumers account for 70% of economic growth. That's what made this growth data special. Consumers are spending. Here are the facts. The personal income of American households has been rising at a good pace, and in August was rising at a 3.1 annual rate. That's a continuation of the healthy, steady growth trend that's been in place now for 7 years post-recession. While you could never know it from watching the news, real consumer spending power has been growing faster for the past year than during the peak of the last economic boom. Over the 12 months ended August 30th, 2016, the compound annual growth rate in real consumer spending, the real purchasing power of American consumers, grew by 3.4%, compared with the 12-month peak in the boom before the Great Recession of 2.8%. Yet the news is filled with stories telling us that Americans' income has been stagnant. In early September, the Wall Street Journal asked about 70 economists for their quarterly GDP growth forecasts through Q1 2017. The resulting consensus forecast, the red bars, shows strength in the rate of GDP growth expected in the quarters immediately ahead. Again, these are the facts. The latest data on inflation and employment are consistent with Fed Chair Janet Yellen's policy pronouncements. Inflation is not a problem. The Fed's preferred measure of inflation, the core PCED, was measured at 1.5%, which was well below the 2% target previously spelled out by Fed policymakers. By statute, the Fed's dual mandate calls for a policy designed to bring the economy to full employment simultaneously with an inflation rate of at least 2%. Meanwhile, the other part of the dual mandate is unemployment. There remains slack in the labor market, which leaves room for increased growth as the most stubbornly unemployed Americans, measured by the U6 index of unemployment, are re-entering the workforce. In the last economic boom, the debt-fueled expansion of 2006 and 2007, the U6 index of unemployment, which encompasses a group called discouraged workers because they stay outside the labor force for so long, dropped to 8%. That's the rate the Fed is thought to be targeting. The Fed can afford to liquefy the economy to keep rates low well into 2017, until full employment is regained, without risking inflation. Stock prices are near an all-time high and fairly valued, but an emotional shift in sentiment or an unexpected event could cause a pullback at any time. Despite the constant, sometimes intentional distortion of facts presented daily in the news, the real facts show that the expansion that began in 2009 is continuing at a moderate pace.